Hello, everyone. I have been doing my best to rest as I have been not doing so great. My flare ups happened again, but I wanted to get on here and try to do recording because I did notice a very huge spike in my views. It was enough of a spike to where it was not normal, and it had me alarmed for a little bit. At first, I was thinking that it was some sort of hate raid or something based on the messages I was getting in my inbox and also the comments. So I did respond to some of the comments that weren't hateful to try to figure out what was going on. They just said it was YouTube recommended me. Well, there's an issue with this. The video in question that has sparked all of this was from 3 years ago. So 2018 was when that recording was made. Now, I meant nothing bad by that recording or any of the recordings I've made. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to leave that recording up because I want to prove that, and also because I have been preaching for a long time about owning up to your mistakes on my channel. So I am going to live by what I teach, and I'm going to leave the video up regardless of how many hateful comments I get. Okay. With that spiel out of the way, let me go ahead and try to summarize what I was trying to do back then. So back then, it was during a very, very turbulent time for the United States, and I've always maintained the no political stance. That's the way my channel's always been, and it will always be that way. So I'm not going to go into details about the political climate in 2018. I'm pretty sure y'all can figure it out for yourselves anyways. All I was trying to do by the recording is saying that I think a lot of things are messed up, and there are contributing factors to this. One of the contributing factors that I felt, well, and still feel, is the education system of the United States. I have noticed that a lot of the educational institutions across the United States teach more U.S. history than they do world history, at least during the earlier years of education. When you get to college or university, then yes, you certainly can pick from more world history classes or classes more geared towards a certain time period or a certain country. But when you get to those earlier years like high school and stuff, they do really heavily focus on U.S. history. I think that it's fine to teach history, but I think the real issue with teaching it is that I don't think that the system or the teachers themselves are doing a great job of trying to explain that while you are American, at least by definition or by wording, your ancestors did migrate here somewhere along the line of the family tree. All countries, for the most part, were created that way by immigration. It's a natural process that's been present throughout history, and it's an important one. Because when you have immigration or even a mix of cultures happening, like what we're seeing with food, and I'll use that as an example here in a minute, but when you have these mixes, it creates new cultures, it creates new experiences. It's a good thing for the world. But the problem is that not a lot of people get it through their thick skull that you are basically a descendant of an immigrant. So, unfortunately, because you can't get it through the thick skulls of certain people, you just have this perpetual bad line of thought, I guess is where I'm going with that. So, that's really what I was trying to relay, at least as far as the education side. As far as the other stuff is concerned, I was just more or less trying to say that I recognize that there's bad apples in every bunch. It happens with everything, not just the education system, but also law enforcement and, people within a country. There's always going to be a bad apple in every bunch, and that's just an unavoidable portion of not just history, but present day. So all I was trying to say is that, the bad apples is really the big problem, and I meant that with really everything, not just the education system. So that's really all I was trying to say by this video back in 2018. So now let me try to talk about present day or at least more recent events. So I still hold the belief that the education system in the United States and really most of the world is pretty messed up. The United States, I think, is perhaps more of a worse example than some of the others I can list. And I mentioned one reason as to why I think that it's because they're not reinforcing or trying to educate the younger generation that really everyone in the United States and most countries is descendants of an immigrant. But another reason, too, that I think that the U.S. education system is messed up is because they come off as a money grab, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Because if you look at a lot of the degree programs that are present in the United States, they require you to take classes that have no bearing or no benefit to that particular degree. So take, for example, criminal justice. If you look at a lot of the criminal justice degree programs within the U.S. colleges or universities, you'll notice that there are a couple of weird ones like Algebra 2. It depends which college or university you're talking about, but Algebra 2 does some of the time mean the math of shapes. I can guarantee you that criminal justice is not going to be doing math of the shapes. Maybe if it's more on the science side, like if you're talking forensics and stuff, okay, fine, they might be doing that. But when you're talking criminal justice, you're talking about business administration, so like taking over a police department or federal agency. You're also talking about, police officers in general. Local police, sheriffs, and things like that. Those are the people you're aimed at with a criminal justice degree. Forensics is really going to be a minor in criminal justice and a major in something like biology or whatever. But so it just doesn't make sense to start shoving useless knowledge down their throats. I mean, okay, sure, if the person wants to take the class, fine. Then it's not useless knowledge, but that needs to be a decision on the person, not the college. Now, another thing, too, that I kind of want to bring up here, just to be fair to the United States, I recognize that a lot of countries do this, where they shovel useless knowledge down the pipeline to these degrees. But the difference is, with the other countries, they don't do it as severely as the United States. At least some of them don't. The other thing, too, that kind of offsets it is at least the other countries have some sort of system in place that doesn't force a student into years worth of debts. I mean, if you look at the current average for student debt, it's astronomical right now for the United States. It's just mind-boggling at the fact that this was even allowed to go on this long. So I just want to be fair about that and point that out. Now, one other thing I would like to point out too in regards to the education system in general, and this is a world problem, not just a U.S. problem, is that really education in general has strayed from what it should be, in my opinion. And I base this based on really just my ancestors, because I've had the fortunate experience of being around long enough to meet my ancestors from way, way back in the day, like before student aid was even a thing. So you're talking pre-1960s. So here's the thing, is the common belief well before all of this happened was that school should prepare you for life. That was more or less the philosophy based on those times, according to the people who lived them, which is going to be my ancestors and their family friends and all that. I have spoken to all of them, and that was the shared belief between all of them, was that education really should be preparing you for life. And I think it's a wonderful philosophy to have. And when I compare their education to today's education, it's a very big difference. One example I can give is that when they were in high school, they actually had the option to take basic car maintenance classes. That was actually a class at high school, and the reason for that was because they wanted to ensure that you could change your oil and your tire, before you even hit your driver's license. To me, that was a wonderful system, and honestly, I wish that the education systems of today would restructure themselves, not just to better prepare people for life, but also to be more practical. If you want to truly ensure that somebody's prepared for life, then make sure that you give them knowledge to do so, and if you can, the skills as well. So that deviates into the Great Resignation topic now. So here's why I'm bringing it up and why I stress the importance of all this. As y'all are probably aware, the Great Resignation is going on, in which a bunch of workers across the globe are leaving their jobs. This has happening for a number of reasons. It's happening because of mistreatment in the workplace. It's happening because of unfair pay and many, many other things. But here's the thing. During this whole Great Resignation, a lot of companies are complaining that there's not enough experienced workers to get their pool from. Well, that is an issue on them more so than society, because a lot of jobs do not need a degree. And the sooner that these companies can drop degrees from their requirements, the better the world will be. I can name a couple, like computer science or criminal justice. Really, when it comes down to it, a lot of the stuff in the IT field is something you can learn through free online classes, YouTube videos, or tutorials. There's tons of videos out there regarding coding, programming, build a computer. You can learn all of that on your own. You don't need a college to do that these days. But if you choose to do a college, by all means, that's your money and your life. If you feel like that you do better learning from a university rather than an online course, I completely respect that. I'm just saying, though, that it really isn't required anymore, the whole degree aspect for acquiring a job, in those fields. Criminal justice really can be the exact same in many other fields, because if you're just looking to do more of the basic jobs, whether that be a federal agency, local law enforcement, business administration related to those, or even something in the tech field, right? Those all don't need degrees. Really, the main issue with the law enforcement system in the United States is bad training and bad teachers. Here's a little fact for you. The licensing boards for peace officers across the states only applies to the city academy in question. So if you're going state trooper or that other stuff, that's where the state license applies, and at least the regulations to it. There is a gap in the system, and that's going to be your open academies, aka the ones you find in colleges. But even with that gap, there's still going to be gaps in the city academies as well, and one of those is washed up officers. This is a very scary fact, but a very, very true fact, is what happens is when you have really, really bad officers or agents or whatever you wish to call them, they get removed from their department, but that doesn't stop them from becoming academy teachers, because the academies have a different system and different rule sets than the universities do, and also the city academies. Vice versa, the universities also have a different system than the academies, and the other stuff. So it's entirely possible for someone to have a really bad reputation and still get a criminal justice teaching job as a professor, or to be an instructor at academy, because they don't check that stuff. So really, that is where your issues is. It's bad training, and it's not getting rid of these washed up officers or agents. So you have people with bad records teaching the new generation is essentially what it is. So long story short is, in order to fix the Great Resignation, you have to first fix the U.S. education system, and well, really the world too, because honestly, the whole world needs to reevaluate their degree systems. But in the U.S. specifically, I think that, well, actually, I guess it's not U.S. specifically, I guess global too, that colleges or universities can play a big factor in getting experienced workers into the field before they even take a job by ensuring that their education systems are appropriate for that field. So that's all I have. Thanks for listening.